Good evening, everybody, and good evening, chaps. Rich, how are you? And what colour was your arrow in Game Week 2?
Good evening, Fergi. Good evening, everyone. I'm well, thank you. And I think I got a small green arrow last week. So get in. I think I'm into the top million now. Outstanding.
Slow down, mate. Slow down. Flipping next. Some of us are still trying to catch up. What are the highlights of your team, Rich?
Highlights. I think, well, pretty much most of the high scores I got were from players that everybody owns. So Gabriel Jesus, etc. James Cancelo, etc. all returning. I had a reasonable week, 67 points, nothing great, but I just got on the wrong side of the Robertson Diaz, 50-50, depending on how you set your team up. But disappointed that the Liverpool defence conceded twice. And I'm already beginning to notice, I'm sure when we come on to Abdul, you'll see the difference. The difference between going double Liverpool defence versus going double City defence is already starting to widen the gap between, engaged teams, I guess. So that's something we'll talk about later on, I'm sure. I've got the straight jacket of 5 at the back to deal with, and again, I'm sure we'll come on to that in one of the sections later on. But I've hung on to Perisic, and fingers crossed he's going to play this week or start this week. But yeah, a mixed week, not too bad. Quite happy with the progress after 2 weeks.
You can't argue with the green, Rich. You can't argue with the green anytime, could you? Good stuff. So with Adam away in Costa Rica. Believe it or not, he's been on holiday in Costa Rica. We're delighted to welcome our guest for the week, the wonderful 5 times top 1K manager, Abdul Rehman. Great to have you on again, Abdul. How has your season started?
Yeah, thanks, Fergi. Good to be on as well. Yeah, I've had a really good start again this season. So 82 points this week, up to I think about 36k. But as there's the ranks are kind of so bunched up at the moment. But yeah, I guess kind of my main point scorers outside the kind of template this week was like Sanchez, Diaz, and James, I think, and who all kind of hauled. And obviously, it was like the Robbo versus Luis Diaz kind of won out in that battle as well. Yeah. So yeah, a really good start. 82 points this week. Can't complain. I got 2 free transfers going into Game Week 3 as well.
Are you one of those smug swines who don't know what to do with them, so you're thinking of burning? Or have you got a plan for your transfers?
Honestly, Fergie, I might actually burn this week. I'll be honest with you.
Really?
You'll see. I mean, when you see my team,
it's so perfect. Still, he doesn't need to make a transfer.
I don't know. Something might crop up, but yeah, you'll see what I mean when you see my team.
Yeah. Well, for those that don't, Abdul's actually top of the Elite 64 league at the moment after 2 weeks, which is quite a well-known Twitter community
and have contributors as well.
FPL
top of everything,
full of contributors, full of some of the best players in the world. He's top of the league.
He's top of the world, mate. That's where he is.
It's early days, guys. Yeah. Come on, don't jinx it.
I gotta say, I felt a little bit unfortunate as a Robertson owner. There was I think it was about kind of 15 minutes in. There was a ball played over the top, and someone chested it down, and I couldn't quite see who it was, but he was almost kind of through one-on-one, chested it down, and half got a shot away, which was blocked. And it happened to be Andy Robertson. And I was so excited because at that point, Diaz had been quiet, and Robertson was so advanced, playing so far forward, and how it kind of swung the other way is pretty obscene. But these are the breaks, right? And these are the things. And what a goal by Diaz as well. I've got to be fair. It was surprised me a little bit of how well he took that. But awesome start, Abdul. 82 points in Game Week 2. Massive green arrow, and absolutely flying as usual. Did you have a top 5k finish last season as well? Roughly around that.
Yeah. I got about 3k last season. Yeah.
3k flipping heck. Good stuff. Down to my lowly score of 65 points for this week. All the usual pretenders. Bailey benched, obviously, wasn't ideal. My punt in Alvarez for the week only got 8 minutes, which was very disappointing.
I think I said 12, didn't I?
Yeah,
that was my guess.
I was very disappointed, but I would say again, I was actually at the races on Saturday, and I'd had a few drinks. I'm in the bar. We're watching the kind of last throw-ins of the game. When Alvarez came on, I was just buzzing. I just get really excited when these kind of lone players just have a real chance of doing well. Wasn't to be. 65 points. I did have a nice green actually. 2.7 to 2.1 mil, which when Abdul says and everyone's bunched up. I'm not sure I'd quite agree with that being at 2.1 million. But I'm probably still about 40 points behind you or whatever else. So over a season that's nothing. But okay, 65 points, green arrow. Got a couple of problems ahead of next week. Maybe need to sort out because my team for next week is not looking too good. So I have a couple of plans. Might be taking a hit, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Welcome to everyone in the chat. My goodness, we've got loads already. MRF is in, as usual. Al Rockman, Christian Lundstrom, FPL SWAT, Jani Kiyakowski, Adam Burge, Steen is in, Ray Kawashi, Daniel Burt says his mate's rank is 178th, and he's doing 25 points ahead of me. Flipping it, and he's 500k. Rubber Ducky is in, Colin Bugler, Andy Irvin, Manchester, Dal says Fergie must be absolutely buzzing to have Keenan Davis back in the Prem. I thought he was over Watford. I wonder Watford he signed for. Anyway, Andy Irvin, I've said Andy Irvin, and Tanner Henry asks Sterling keep or sell. I'm sure we'll touch on him later. Today we are going to do Rich Pickens, which is with Rich. We're going to talk in depth around transfer manoeuvring because this week is a bit of like moving week for a lot of people. Those kind of rolled over the first, those who want to maybe change from 5 at the back. So we're going to have a discussion around that. Adam, before he went off, he sent us some stats. So we're going to do some Hopta Stats. We've got the captain for game week 3, which actually is quite, looking at the odds, looking at predicted points, there's a name at the top of predicted points, which I didn't expect, actually, if you consider all the main protagonists on offer. We will have Fergie as a punt. We'll look at our game week 3 teams for our competition. But first, we are going to do violin moments of the week. And thank you so much to everyone who sent these in. We've had some absolute crackers this week. I've picked out sort of like the top 4. They're quite similar, but my goodness, they are absolutely superb. So we're going to start off with Ross Johnson. He says, Fergie, you'll love this, mate. He was in the chat first, so I'll read it out first. He wildcarded after game week 1 to beat the price rises. He dropped Gabriel Jesus and went with Mitrovic and Darwin Núñez. He says, I've now had to take a -4. I've now had to take a -4 to get Jesus back in, as he
pay more.
As he had Ramsdale, Zinchenko, and Martinez. He'd actually blocked himself out of Jesus.
Oh,
From Ross. I think you've won the week already, but you've won the season there, Ross, to be honest. Wildcarded and then having to take a hit to get a player back in. Ed, Fantasy Fest Ed, very well known in the Twitter community. Wildcarded out Jesus and Harry Kane for these two, which were Mitrovic and Darwin Núñez. He says Patreon coming soon, as you can imagine. He wasn't best happy. Jar on Twitter had Haaland FOMO, made me take a -8. He took out Gabriel Jesus, Perisic, and João Cancelo, and he brought in Haaland, Saliba, and Nico Williams. But the best part,
scored an own goal.
Saliba scored an own goal, yeah. But the best part is, he already had Kevin De Bruyne and would have captained him if he'd have left his team as it is. So overall, it's cost him 53 points, which is
that's a sore one.
And then finally, Nelly Ellis, another absolute beauty here. Late wildcard, he says to get ahead. He's put in exclamation mark. He wanted to get ahead, so he took out Gabriel Jesus and Reece James. Own goal for Saliba, missed penalty and a red card for Darwin Nunes. Absolutely.
That's very ahead of the curve.
Head of the curve.
It's always one of your phrases, that.
They are your violin moments for game week 2. Some absolute crackers there. Rich, let's move on to Rich Pickens. What are we talking about this week?
All right, okay. I'll try and get my composure back. That was great, mate. That was very, very funny. Well done. Commiserations to the timing of those wildcards there. Okay, so yeah, I think there was a stat came out last week that said about 2/3 of the game, 66% of certainly people who voted were rolling a transfer in game week 2. So this really means that going into game week 3, a lot of people haven't made a transfer yet. Their teams are starting to kind of not look exactly how they'd like them to, with emerging form options, maybe 1 or 2 players we just mentioned, not being available for a few weeks. And so, really the theme of this section is really called multiple moves. So basically there's a number of different directions we can go in the game with our 2 transfers, or maybe a mini wild card, 2 transfers and a -4, very popular. And that means the game's going to diversify. I think that's really good for the game. It'll mean that we don't all have such template teams going into game week 3. We won't all just be stuck with Salah and Haaland, and we'll start to move money around the team. And so therefore there's 3 scenarios that going to sort of talk around, some discussion around. Haven't tried to cover everybody, but tried to cover the main themes of teams that I reviewed this week, teams I've looked at. I've seen a number of different sort of themes coming through, and we're going to cover those with 3 things. So the first one is have you got something on screen, Fergi? The first one is exit Bailey. So as many know, Leon Bailey was a very popular game week 1 pick for Aston Villa. Budget midfielder, 5 million. Good pre-season, but just hasn't worked out that way. Turned out to be a bit of a trap. He seems to have lost his place in the side already, and certainly he's a very popular transfer out this week already for managers. He's dropped in value already, and yet therefore I think, what are the options for moving Leon Bailey out? That's really the first piece of discussion. So either you can buy someone around the same sort of price bracket. Lots of people have got 500,000 or 1 million in the bank that they sensibly kept at the beginning. Not me, but some. And you can move around, or you can obviously move him down to a dud, or you can move him up to something. But there are very, very few options in the price brackets above. But that's really the sort of stage set for the first piece. So I'll kick it off. Basically, a couple of the options that stick out and stand out are Rodrigo at Leeds. Rodrigo has scored 2 goals already. Patrick Bamford has picked up an injury. Be good to get an update on that before the weekend. But Bamford looks like he's going to be out again for a little while, and that means Rodrigo should assume main striker duties, possibly penalty duties, and is obviously scored. I think he's got 3 goals already, hasn't he, rather than 2? I don't know. Maybe he's got 3, but he certainly seems an option. He's 6.1 million. And the other one that has been very popular is Pascal Gross. So I think I highlighted Gross as an option last week when we talked about emerging options. He followed up his brace at Manchester United with another very strong, involved and XG related performance. Brighton didn't score, but he had a lot of great underlying stats. So really, it looks like that's underpinned his first week performance, and he looks a real option now at 5.6. So those are 2 options that involve getting a bit of cash to go up from Bailey. And there's a couple of other options going the other way. Loads and loads of people have already bought into Josh Da Silva, who scored his 2nd goal of the season against Manchester United last weekend. Da Silva is 4.6 million now, so real bargain basement option. Not sure of his minutes in terms of his likeliness to stay in the team, but certainly, again, you can sell Bailey to him and release some extra cash there, and he looks a good option. Brentford's fixtures are so good for the next dozen or so weeks. I think they've only really got one difficult game before the World Cup or something, or one really big team before the World Cup. So there's two options from Brentford. One is Josta Silva, and the other one I think is it Matthias Jensen? I'm not sure exactly his first name, but yeah, Jensen is a 5 million option. Was the same price as Bailey, and again, looks really promising. Probably put in man of the match performance for Brentford last weekend. So that's really just 4 options there. Very aware a lot of people have already moved on Bailey because his price dropped Tuesday evening, but there's plenty of people who still haven't, and therefore it's still very, very relevant, this discussion. Have you still got him in your team, Fergie, or have you got rid of him already?
I have, yeah. I've still got him. I don't like making early moves, so I have lost 0.3 million because of that so far this week, but I don't like making moves early, regardless, because so much can change from the beginning of the week until the end of the week. So I've still got him. I think the one I like around this price point, I don't know why I keep calling Christian Gross, the old Spurs manager, Pascal Gross. So I agree with you in terms of output, but also the eye test. He's basically playing kind of almost up alongside Welbeck. It seems to be a lot of the time. And I think for 5.5 million with the fixtures. So their fixtures away to West Ham on the weekend, which on paper is probably not that pretty, but West Ham are playing in Europe this week and next week, and they haven't exactly looked great so far this season. So it's not really a fixture I'm particularly scared of now. They're then home to Leeds, away to Fulham, home to Leicester, away to Bournemouth, home to Palace. So right until that kind of, wild card period for game week 8 or 9, Brighton's fixtures are absolutely superb. And I think for me, he's probably top of my shopping list. I was interested in Rodrigo. Leeds fixtures after this week are very good as well. So they're home to Chelsea this week, obviously not the best. After that, away to Brighton, and then they improve. But I did read actually this afternoon that Bamford could even be back as early as this weekend now. So that's just worth monitoring. I was just looking at the expected minutes on the hub, and I saw that he's expected to be back in like a week or two. So I had a look, and reports are he could even be back this weekend. So that's just one to monitor.
I think the thing with Gross as well is he should be on penalties as well, I think, with Mope gone.
Yeah,
that's. I heard some talk on that earlier. McAllister was the one who had them last season, wasn't he? But he's doesn't always start, does he, McAllister? So
yeah, I mean, I think I'm not sure why he took them, but when I was looking into it, like looking at all the set piece guides, they had Mope and Gross. So yeah, I guess we'll find out when they get the first penalty. But yeah, there is a chance, but on a 5.5 million, as you guys say.
Yeah, on pens, that's a steal, isn't it? Really? Yeah. Have you got anybody else you're thinking of in that price range, Abdul? Did anyone else stick out to you?
No, I think when it comes to Bailey, if you're going, I mean, there's nobody in that 5 million, like the 5 million price bracket that I like. So you're either going to go down to a 4.5, or you go up to when your Pascal Grosses, or if you've got more, maybe to like a 6 million. But yeah, I think the ones you mentioned are probably the best. And I think same as Fergie, if I had Bailey, and I had the money, then Gross would be kind of on top of my list as well.
I know you wanted to just have a quick chat about kind of Rashford, Abdul, as well, in terms of maybe keeping or replacing that Liverpool high line they play. Does kind of maybe signal that if United can play even half decently, I expect Liverpool's going to win the game, right? But the way that Liverpool are defending, the kind of goal that Palace scored on the weekend is kind of the exact position you expect kind of Rashford to kind of run in as well. Would you be tempted to hold on to Rashford at all? And if not, who would the kind of a player you'd look at?
Yeah, no, I don't. If I had Rashford, I think this would be the week I'd move him out, because I mean, can't see anything against Liverpool. And again, if he blanks again, then it's and it's more price drops, and it's just going to put pressure on you to make another early transfer. So yeah, I think I'd be looking at, again, if I'm going down, possibly again, a Pascal Gross, or somewhere along those lines. But I think I think with a lot of people having 2 free transfers this week, he could be one to kind of move up to, a Louis Diaz or even like a Maddison or a Foden, one of the 8 million midfielders, because you just need to release I guess he's 6.3 now, so you'll need to release 2 million.
He's dropped 0.2, is he? I didn't know.
Yeah, I think he's down to 6.3. So yeah, I guess if you are going to be making 2 transfers and you're going to be releasing cash, then yeah, I'd be looking at that 8 million, pound price point for the midfielders for sure.
I saw a tweet earlier where someone mentioned potentially moving to Maddison for 1 week if you're coming off Robertson. Maybe go off Robertson, go to Maddison for 1 week, and then move to Diaz when obviously the fixtures improve. Then game week 4 onwards, which sounds like something Leicester have got. Oh, hang on, I've got it in front of me now. Leicester home to the Saints this weekend, which is obviously a really nice fixture for Leicester. A lot of history there too. That doesn't like a bad shout. What's next, Rich? After those, we talked about strikers.
Yeah, okay. So I think the most common setup was either 4-4-2 at the beginning of the season, or 5-3-2 or 3-5-2. We didn't really see many starting teams with 3 strikers in them, 1 or 2. But generally, this is now after quite a lot of striker goals in the first couple of weeks. This has now suddenly become a lot more popular again as a strategy and a way to set up. We had already started to see people trying to get Núñez in before he got sent off, so he was either coming in as a third striker alongside Jesus and Haaland or Kane, or he was part of a 3-man cheaper setup with a cheaper third striker. So with the 2 transfers, the leverage you can create, it's very possible to get 1.5-2 million out of some of these players we're talking about who haven't had a good start, and we'll come on to the enablers in a minute. But that 2 million or that 1.5 million gets you the upgrade on Archer, gets the upgrade on Greenwood. We're all holding these 4.5 million non-playing strikers on our benches, and suddenly, particularly Brighton and Brentford's fixture swings are very attractive. So a couple that I'll mention, I think that are real favourites are, I know Abdul, you did very well out of Ivan Toney last season, and he was a real sort of saver for you. He's a very popular pick this week's price has already gone up to 7.1, possibly get another rise before the weekend. He really is the sort of standout mid-priced option for me. Mitrovic at 500,000 cheaper, 6.6. Again, unlucky last week with a missed penalty and a booking and etc. But the prospects are still very good for Mitrovic and Fulham as the fulcrum of that attack. So there's 2 that almost like talisman players for their teams that it can be brought in with 2 moves this week. And then if you're at the cheaper end, you maybe got a little bit of cash in the bank, you don't have 2 transfers or can't quite stretch. You've still got the likes of Danny Welbeck, Brian Mbeumo, and the Forest striker. I'm not sure I can pronounce his name. Awoniyi scored last. Awoniyi.
Yeah, Awoniyi. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Scored last week, and all these guys are around the 6 million mark. So you only need 1.5 to get to them. Perhaps you don't want to go all the way down with the defensive transfer. You might have you're on a 5 million player, for instance, or even Perisic. You can still upgrade the striker to one of these 3 guys. So I think there's a lot of possibilities there in the third striker spot. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think there's, as you said, with Awoniyi, you got the Brennan Johnson as well, who plays for Forest. But I think Awoniyi plays, as a centre forward, whereas Johnson kind of plays more on the wing. So probably prefer Awoniyi out of them. But yeah, Mitrovic is the one I'd be really interested in from the kind of 6 to 6.5. I think he's going to be really good this season. Obviously, as you said, unlucky with the penalty, but he's going to be their talisman. He's going to get majority of their goals. He's a 90-minute man. He's on penalties. It's kind of similar to Ivan Toney, but just a bit cheaper. So there is plenty of options there now. It's opened up that third striker spot.
And in terms of those on Núñez now, he was quite a popular pick after his performance in the opening game off the bench. All those who played in the Violin section earlier, there's a lot kind of went for him. What kind of moves would you would you think there, Abdul, that people could make it? Is it worth kind of making a sideways move, or moving up, or moving down?
I think if you've got Nunes, I think if you've not got Gabriel Jesus, then it's obviously a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And then if you've got Jesus, then I think Ivan Toney. And I think, as Rich kind of mentioned, the fixtures all the way up until game week 12 are amazing. They don't play any of the, last season's top four, until game week 12. And then, I think when they play Arsenal, they're at home as well. So, yeah, the fixtures are just amazing. So he'd be the one I'd be jumping on, if I already had Jesus as a Nunes replacement. And then, if you've got 2 free transfers, then you can, use that cash elsewhere in the squad as well.
I know, if you're thinking of burning a transfer, Abdul, obviously, then wildcard obviously hasn't entered your head at all yet. Have you had any kind of thoughts about, a kind of wildcard around that game week 8 or 9, or are you plan on just kind of leaving it as long as you can? What's you really thinking?
No, I've actually I've got it earmarked as game week 8 because that's the first international break. Yeah. So I think it's naturally a good time, but I think game week 9 is a possibility as well. It's going to be either game week 8 or 9. I don't want to wait too long because then you kind of want to set up, up until the World Cup. So you need, I think it's best to kind of not use it too late because you want to kind of take advantage of that, that 5-6 game week stretch up until the World Cup where you get unlimited transfers again. So yeah, for me, game week 8 or 9.
Okay, cool. And the other player on this graphic, Rich, is Mbeumo, who suffered a fair bit of ridicule last year. I thought, what did he hit the post like 7 times or something stupid like that?
A massive amount of times.
I think he's a really good player. I thought so last year. I went all in on the kind of double up in that period as with game week 10 onwards, or wherever it was, the Mbeumo and Toney sort of double up. Obviously, it didn't pay off, but another year in the Premier League. Obviously, he's cheaper than Toney as well. Do you think he's an option, or would you just rather pay the extra for Toney?
No, he scored a good goal last week, didn't he? And Brentford are going to be so confident after, last weekend. Especially in the home games. They're going to go for teams, and I think their assets are great value. Particularly the attacking ones. I mean, there's probably no need to put defenders in from them. There's nothing wrong with their defenders, but because we can all afford premium defenders from good sides, it's I think that will still continue. But yeah, they've got some great value.
Okay, so we've been talking so far about players we're going to get in. Obviously, to get players in, you need a bit of cash. So how are we going to do that, Rich?
You do well. I've seen some comments and some tweets out there saying, in particular, don't sell Robertson. He's got great fixtures coming up. I'm not sure if you've got them to hand there, Fergie, but after this weekend, even if you could consider the United away game to be a difficult game, which I think is questionable at the moment, the games to follow up to that game week 8 are great for Liverpool. So by selling Robertson, you are getting potentially lots of cash to make these upgrades, to make these changes, and so on. But you are saying goodbye to potential 3 or 4 clean sheets and some attacking returns, in exchange for selling him. So don't do it lightly. But he is, subject to a lot of transfers out. People are moving him down. An easy move is to move him down to Reece James. If you haven't got Reece James yet, Reece James is very popular, and that's a really popular move this week. Or in my case, if I move him down, if Perisic is going to play, I will possibly use this as an opportunity to right the wrong and go for 2 City defenders rather than 2 Liverpool defenders and get Diaz in. It's a bit of a boring pick, but I can already see the gap widening, and just the continued City clean sheets are just going to annoy me if I don't put it right. So I'll get $1 million out from that move. So there's lots of, you're still bringing in a very good player and a very good, high scoring guy, in order to get the cash to make these upgrades. So lots of alternatives off Robertson, but he's not the only one. I think whoever else have I got on the graphic? I mean, I've got a couple of 8 million guys on there. I've got Mason Mount on there, and Saka, haven't I?
Drop this evening, I think, potentially Mason
Mount.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So Mount hasn't had the greatest of starts to the season. James looks a better pick at Chelsea, certainly, than him. But again, Chelsea's fixtures are really, really good, from now on. I think they're ranked the highest going up to the World Cup out of any team in terms of the sort of 15-week fixture ticker or something. So They look really good. So Mount could be gotten ready. Could get. You don't have to go from an 8 to an 8. You can go down to one of these players in the sort of 5.6 level, and again that frees up the couple of million that you might need. And similarly, Saka, it's well discussed and so on that Martinelli presents a lot better value in the Arsenal attack than Saka. Not that Saka's done anything wrong, but he's another 8 that hasn't really got the returns in the first couple of weeks. So I've got a couple of 8s there in the midfield. And who else have I got on there on the graphic?
Rashford and Perisic.
Well, So Rashford, we've already talked about. That was one that Abdul had some thoughts on. But Perisic is my personal headache. I bought him in game week 1. The last minute went back to him. Really with this Wolves game onwards in mind. Didn't really mind that he sat out the first couple, but I really want him to play on Sunday to justify on Saturday. Sorry, to justify the weight and the original investment. But if he doesn't, then I've got options because I've got 4 good defenders already. Instead of, I keep Robertson and I can drop Perisic down to Neco Williams or drop Perisic down to even just a 5 and have the money to make an upgrade elsewhere. So that's why he's in. And a lot of people are sitting on Perisic with their fingers crossed. But I think if he doesn't play again, that's really going to try people's patience to the limit. What do you think of Perisic, Abdul?
Perisic is a tough one, Rich. I think obviously if you've got him, then I think you need to give him this week, right, against Wolves. And bearing in mind it's the early kickoff as well, so we might get early team news. So I think that'll be a kind of a late one. But yeah, if he's starting, he's going to be one of the best defenders in the game. Like we've seen, his attacking stats. He got 8 goals and 7 assists last season, and his kind of numbers are up there with like Reece James, in terms of goal threat. So yeah, I really like him as a player. But obviously he's not getting the stats. So he's only had like 35 minutes so far. I don't know if the Romero injury might help him get a start this week as well, because they're kind of maybe short numbers. But yeah, I just think, I'm glad I've not got him because it's going to be a headache. But I think if you've not got him, then there's no point in considering him. But the guys who have him, I think give him this week. If he doesn't start, then I think it's just time to kind of cut your losses.
Yeah. Robertson and Mount are the 2 out of all those for me. Well, and Saka, in all fairness, they've still got the fixtures. They haven't got the FPL points, but Robertson especially, in terms of his own performances, I think has been playing well. Mount and Saka, they're looking to get a lot of minutes, minimum 70, 80 minutes. Fixtures are beautiful. I'm tempted to get rid of Robertson, saying that. But Abdul, what would your advice be to people, in terms of looking to get rid of these sorts of players to free up cash and maybe restructure a bit?
Yeah, it really all depends on your team, Fergie. So I would say if you've got the 2 free transfers and you're able to maybe, bring in a Cucurella and, upgrade one of your midfielders to a Diaz, then maybe. I don't think I'd be making if you've got the 1 free transfer, I don't think I'd be going, Robertson to Cucurella or James. I don't think. I don't know. I just think, I think with the 2 free transfers, because when you've got 2 free transfers, you're talking about it's a combination, right? That's what you're comparing, the 2 players that you're bringing in. But when you're comparing, just Robertson to James and a Cucurella or whoever, then I think Robertson kind of still comes out on top. But when you add in the extra midfielder that you're bringing in, then it kind of changes things. So yeah, I guess it depends, obviously, where you are with your team structure and how many free transfers you've got.
Yeah, I think for me, I've just got this straitjacket at the moment. I've got 0.0 in the bank, and I've got 2 free transfers. I should be really looking forward to this weekend, but it still feels like I'm completely trapped by my setup. I can't move. It might be best for me to burn a transfer, believe it or not, because I can't really. I could make one. I think probably if I don't get any actual news on Perisic, I might just move I don't know, Bailey to a dud and free up 0.4 million just to spend the transfer. I mean, that's really all I could do, isn't it? Or maybe move Perisic down to Walker or something like that, and just get that second City player, get that done.
I'd personally do that already.
Yeah, I was going to say I like that move. I like the Perisic to Walker. I think people were talking about that last week as well.
Yeah.
And I think it was a good move last week, but I think a lot of people held on for this Wolves fixture. So yeah, it's tough. I
just think with Perisic, even if he does start, there's no way he's paying 90, obviously, but he may not even make 60, and he may not start. And over the next kind of 3 or 4 weeks, do you really want to be like looking at the team sheet with a 5.5 with basically a premium defender, hoping he plays? Not for me.
Never be able to relax.
You can go for Walker. Well, he'll play 90% of the games. He'll keep clean sheets in 70% of the matches. He may even get the odd attack in return, and you save $500,000, so you can sort something out further up. I think it's a bit of a no-brainer, to be honest.
All right, yeah. I'll look at it. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. I just
okay. Any other cash cab before we end this section? Anybody got any other in the chat or any suggestions of where there's rich sources of £1 to £2 million that you can use elsewhere? And I think we've covered most of the options.
Yeah,
but if you could think of someone else who's expendable, there's a lot of cash there. I mean, Nunes obviously is one, but of ones who are playing and who are getting games, these are the options I think we're looking at, aren't we?
Yeah, I think they're the main ones. Yeah,
we do. Okay, we've got some Hopta stats. So Adam, very kindly, before he left, dropped us some stats. The first one was Brighton's expected goals conceded versus Newcastle was just 0.18. He said, with brilliant fixtures on the horizon, there's plenty of bargains to be had in the Brighton defence. Now, we have kind of touched on Brighton already, and we've got the expected points for the Brighton players for Game Week 1 or Game Week 2. Top of the shop is Gross, unexpectedly, 13.6. Solly March, 10.5. Lallana, 9.5. And then Veltman, Sanchez, Webster in the 8s. Welbeck is 8 as well. But I just thought Brighton, as a whole, as a defensive unit and potentially an attacking unit, they really excite me because their fixtures are phenomenal. Their fixtures are really good from especially next week onwards. Abdul, can I just ask you first? Are you interested in Brighton at all in any position? And if so, what's your kind of order of preference?
Yeah, I mean, I like, obviously I've got Sanchez already, who I really like. Nice. His rotation with Ward is really good up until the first wild card when I've got it planned. But I'm not really looking at bringing him into my team just because I don't really need to at the moment. But again, as I was saying before, if I had a Bailey or a Neto, then Gross would be the top of my list. I actually quite like Welbeck as well. I know he's really injury prone, and it's probably only a matter of time before he gets injured. But up until then, he's a fine option at 6.5 million. So he's just as good as any in that price point. So yeah, they'd be the ones I'd be looking at. If I had the kind of the structure there, and I've had and again, as I say, Gross, he's probably way top of the list. Defense wise, I think if you've not got a Sanchez and you're looking at one of their defenders, then I think it's got to be Dunk.
Okay.
Dunk at 4.5 is he's going to play every game. He's a captain. Got a
really good goal for it as well.
Yeah. Dunk's a good option.
Anything to add for Brighton, Rich? Are you planning on?
Yeah, I mean, Dunk. I was going to mention Dunk. He's been. I've been tipping him all week for people. Just if you want that, quite a few people have got Dallo and are desperate to get rid. So nice, easy sideways move to Dunk. Gross, I think for me is the one to go for. I mean, you were talking Trossard up before the season started. I was just going to say, you still feeling about Trossard?
I do. I still think he's a really good option. But obviously he's $1 million more now than Gross, which is probably why no one's looking at him. That's the only thing.
Maybe he's one of those Rashford sideways moves or something. Or if you've got a 0.2 or something to bridge the gap, he's an option there for Rashford replacements. But we need to see something from Trossard first, don't we?
I think we've seen it on the eye test a bit again. I think he's been really. He's just been well. It's Brighton Brighton as a whole, right? They seem to flatter deceive, but I think this is the year that they can really push on. I thought they were really impressive against Man United. I thought they were really impressive last week as well, and now they got the fixtures to really thrive. And I'm tempted to do at least a double up over this next fortnight, kind of stats wise, but also I'm determined to watch a lot more football this year. And I was really surprised when I saw Brighton's performance against Newcastle, who are, I believe, Newcastle are the best team defensively in 2022. In the Premier League, if they're not top, they're either first or second, and they gave them an absolute pummeling. So I was really impressed. Adam's next point was just around Nico Williams. So top XG and XA for defenders using Fantasy Football Hub data so far for game weeks 1 and 2 combined. Nico Williams comes out top. I mean, what performance last week against West Ham. How he didn't get any attack returns, I don't know. He was absolutely superb. So he's top. Dallo is second, and then Sessegnon, and then Trent and James, as we know, before we drop down a little bit. But I suppose the question here, and I'm going to ask this question as well this week. Rich, obviously you've got Perisic, so it's not one for you, but Nico Williams looks a really good option to start this week for owners, but also, Rich, we touched on kind of Walker earlier. Could like a Perisic or even Robertson, right? For those who are looking to go down, is Nico Williams an option in his own right as a starting player now? I suppose is the question.
I think so. I think in Forest home games and in away games against non sort of top 6 sides, I think absolutely. I mean, he looked absolutely on it, didn't he? Last week, he was all over all the set pieces. He was taking them on corners. I think he had 4 shots or something in the box. I he ticked all the boxes, and he was absolutely outstanding. And
he had the
4
highest
million. Yeah,
he had the highest shots out of all the Forest players.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he was pretty.
So
phenomenal.
he's great, and you've got a playable, not just a 4.0 bench player there who's turning up. You've got a playable option who is going to get attacking returns as Forest grow in confidence. I think it's going to take a few weeks before their fixtures turn and improve, and they really start to produce. But they've had a win already. They're probably a bit lucky to get the win. I think West Ham, did everything but score. But I think he's not going to be clean sheets you get from him. You're going to get attacking returns from him. So as long as you're okay with that, he can be played occasionally, started occasionally, and as a way, I'm certainly considering him as one of the moves this weekend off Perisic, or if you move Robertson out, that's 3 million. So you can do a lot with 3 million. So he's definitely an option if you haven't already got him. I think 28% of the game already own him, but he's definitely an option to bring in, Fergie.
What are your thoughts, Abdul?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think if you've got a good rotation there, I mean, if you've got maybe I think he I've not got like Nico Williams so I don't know about the rotations, but I think he rotates quite well with Andres Pereira. And I think it was with Neto as well and Leon Bailey. There was some sort of kind of rotation there. But I mean, I wouldn't be looking to play him every week. But he can very easily be rotated with one of your other bench players. And he's from that game anyway. You'd think he's going to get a fair amount of attacking returns, to justify that £4 million price tag.
Just while we're on defenders, we've had some questions around Reece James, kind of Zinchenko, Cucurella as well. I'm interested in a double up in the Chelsea at the back. Abdul, what's your thinking on that kind of price point there? Are you interested in Cucurella?
Yeah, really interested. I won't give it away, but he is possibly one of my kind of transfer suggestions in this week. So I mean, he's 5 million, plays for Chelsea. At the moment, I think he's got that left wing back spot because Tuchel has said that Chilwell's got kind of a bit of a long way to go to get up to full fitness. So I think at the moment he'll be playing in that left wing back role. Even when Chilwell's fit, he probably just he might just even slot into left centre back.
You will, yeah.
So it doesn't really necessarily mean that when Chilwell's back, it becomes a dead option. So, and then as I said, those fixtures are phenomenal. And he's, against Spurs, he got an assist. He was taking corners. He was, had one of the highest kind of, touches in the final third out of all Chelsea players. So, yeah, there's not much not to like about him.
So you're not that worried about his, rotation with Chilwell then?
No, I think long term, yeah, but I think up until the game week 9, which is when we're all kind of planning to wildcard, I think he should be fine for that, and I'd be pretty happy taking the risk with him, because again, if I have to wildcard maybe game week 6 or 7, I wouldn't mind at all. I don't think it's a huge deal. So yeah, I think I'm happy to kind of I think his pros well outweigh his kind of cons. I think.
Yeah, okay. I just had a thought, Fergie. I could take out Perisic for Kucherella. I could see Perisic starting a Kucherella get benched.
Can you imagine? You'd be on.
You'd be that'd be typical FPL, wouldn't it?
I mean, stranger things have happened, haven't they? You know what I mean? It's like
we're getting a violin next week, mate. Well, if you need exactly $500,000 for something, it's just not the craziest thing in the world, is it? If you wanted to, I don't know, Bailey to, well, not Bailey. If you want to do 5 million to gross, for example, then it's there for you, wouldn't it? But Adam's
a late one.
Adam's final stats was just around premium midfielders and a focus particularly on a certain Mr. De Bruyne. So he sent me a couple of stats. So in the last in De Bruyne's last 12 Premier League appearances, he has scored 9 goals and he's got 8 assists, and he's had an attacking return every 60 minutes, which is just insane, really. He's also followed that up. I posted something on Twitter. I think it was this morning, actually, just a stat. So he compared Salah versus De Bruyne versus Son over the last 20 Premier League matches. And in terms of goals, Son comes out on top, 15, KDB second on 11, and then Salah first. In terms of assists, bonus, points, and minutes per goal or assist, Kevin De Bruyne comes out top on every single metric against Salah or Son over the last 20 Premier League games, which I must say really surprised me. And his question is Salah or KDB or Son plus the extra 1 million. Now, my kind of initial thoughts on this is that it's probably not something I'd look to do over the next week or two, but it's mainly because of Nunez's injury, because just observationally, I think when he plays, he pushes Salah wide. Is my kind of thinking. I'm not sure whether that's statistically backed up, but now he's banned for 3 games, and Firmino's going to be back. It's very likely we see that kind of old-fashioned Salah and Diaz as the front runners, and Firmino hanging back. Are my thoughts there. Abdul, what are your kind of initial thoughts on that? And is getting rid of Salah and going for KDB a viable option?
I don't think so.
I'm asking FPL Salah whether we should get rid of Salah.
Yeah, I know that answer was inevitable, but from a kind of non-biased point of view, Fergie, I just think honestly, I'm a bit skeptical about these kind of last 20 kind of stats, right? Like if you went back last 10 games, that story might be different. If you went back 25 games, it might be different. So I'd either look at it kind of long term, and if you see the amount of goals and assists Salah gets, season in, season out, compare that to KDB, and if you compare the fact that Salah's on penalties, he'll get more minutes. He's got the more goal threat. Yeah, there's no way I'd be. You're saving the 1 million, but I still think Salah is clear.
Yeah. I agree with you, Abdul. I just think that this is your captain, right? For 60+% of the time, that's worth the extra million for the security of knowing your captain has just those consistency of returns. The other thing I think Adam himself said a couple of weeks ago was that Salah does start well. He starts the season well. So this stat is based on the latter half of last season, predominantly 18 games in last season. So the first half of the season, he was absolutely on fire. And I think if you look at the previous 3 or 4 seasons, it's the same. So when he's fresh, when Liverpool are getting up to speed, Salah is the man. and I haven't seen anything yet to suggest he won't be. Well, I think he'll tear United apart on Monday. So the stat is interesting, and possibly, it does make KDB, possibly a better option than Haaland, is what it's perhaps saying to me. But if Haaland doesn't really kick on, then maybe that's a possibility later on. But I won't be selling Salah. Does it make you want to sell him?
No, not it's the fixtures with Liverpool as well, right? So United away scored a hat-trick in the same game last year, then home to Bournemouth, home to Newcastle, away to Everton, and home to Wolves. That's their next 5 games. They are away to Chelsea in game week 8, which will be difficult, but as we know with Salah, as he proved against Chelsea themselves and Man City, he can also score against the big teams as well. So it doesn't, for me, what it makes me kind of want to do is wonder whether I can, find another way, I suppose, to kind of get to KDB. You mentioned kind of Haaland, Rich, or something, but it's just so tough, and it's coincided. I think the reason why it's so difficult is that it's coincided with all the big teams and all these premium options all having fantastic fixtures all at the same time. You have to choose. You can't just hop around really, because they've all got brilliant fixtures. Arsenal, Liverpool, Spurs, Man City, Chelsea, even with Sterling, are all, for the next 6 game weeks, they're all in the top 6 of fixtures for the Premier League. They've all got brilliant fixtures practically every week. So I won't be hopping around. I've done that before a few years ago, and that burns. So it does make me wonder whether to go for KDB over Haaland. But when I choose my team and play FPL, I'm very aware of how I want to enjoy my weekends, and to watch Man City without having Haaland, I won't enjoy watching those matches, and I can't I can't do it. I'm similar with certain attackers like Reece James last season, just scared me to death every time I watched him. And Chilwell, actually at the start of the season, was the same. He was one where you don't own him, he's just frightening. Alonso, when you don't own him, these kind of players, when they're on it, oh my goodness, they are so scary. And I don't want any part of that. So, but I may try and find a way if I can potentially. Speaking of premiums, let's have a look at the best captain for game week 3, and there are some interesting splits across the board. So we look at some different metrics. The first one are the total predicted points from fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, and maybe a surprise name at the top in Jamie Vardy is top of all the predicted points for game week 3, so 7.5 points. I saw you tweeted this out earlier, Abdul, as well, didn't you? Son is second, 7.1. Salah is third, 6.9. Kane is fourth, 6.8. Sterling is fifth, 6.3. Then De Bruyne, then Haaland. That's probably, that kind of away to Newcastle game for me is going to be a tough game, albeit Brighton did give him a bit of a pounding last week. According to our partners odds checker, Haaland actually has the best anytime odds of everyone, 8 to 11. Kane is second, 10 to 11. Salah is third, 6 to 5. Again, so if you fancy Salah, you may want to head over to odds checker. Jesus, the same odds, 6 to 5. And then Vardy is only fifth on this list, 13 to 10. Now, if you go to the polls, unsurprisingly, there are 2 players who are not in the top 3 of the other lists, which is Salah top 47% and Jesus second 29%. So it's very rare you see this where all 3 metrics we use throw out different names as the top 2 or 3 favorites. Rich, can I come to you first? And what are your thoughts on the captaincy for game week 3?
I actually think it's quite an easy one. I'm just going to put it on Salah. I think if you just look at the last 3 games between Liverpool and Manchester United, I think they've scored 13 goals against them and conceded 1. And that's before United got even worse, and and I think Perisic, bottom of the league, they're all over the place. I'm sure there'll be changes. I'm sure there'll be Dallo will be dropped probably. I'm sure there'll be all sorts of people getting changed. Varane should come in. There'll be lots of changes because the manager will just say this is just not good enough, and so they will see new players coming in. And I think United could knuckle down. They could score But I think Liverpool will win the game easily. And so I'm going to put it on Salah. I do think Newcastle will be hard to break down at home. City will win the game, maybe 1-2-0. Therefore, Haaland's out for me. But Tottenham are the other team that I would look at as a supremacy bet or a supremacy score, 3 or 4-0. But I don't own any Tottenham attackers, so I will be captured in Salah. But if you've got Kane, I think he's a shout.
Anything to add there, Abdul?
Yeah, no, I'm the same as Rich. I'm on Salah, and it's I think it's pretty clear cut for me. I would say that my vice captain will be Haaland instead of Jesus, and I think Haaland is the second best option. I mean, he saw he's got his anytime scoring ratio at 58%. And I think a lot of people are being really kind of swayed, with the recency bias of that 19-point Jesus haul. And I think obviously Jesus is a great option, but he's not, that huge haul was a bit of an anomaly. So I would say my top three would be Salah, Haaland, and Jesus this week.
Yeah, I've been quite surprised with the resoluteness, if that's even a word, of Bournemouth, because I think everyone expected them to be, absolute whipping boys. Obviously beat Villa. They put up a bit of a fight against City last week. I think it took City, was it half hour to score or something? And I think it finished 4-0. But that's the kind of game in recent years where probably City would have gone on to win kind of 6 or 7-0. If we're looking at Bournemouth, kind of like a Leeds or something like that in terms of defensively. So I think the Bournemouth at home are a different beast. And I think Arsenal will win, but I'm not expecting three or four goals, which
I agree.
Which you could probably expect in the Liverpool game and potentially the Spurs game. So I agree with that as well. So I think I'll be on Salah as well there. Okay, time for Fergie is a punt, and this graphic disappoints me absolute no end. So this was my punt for last week, and I went for Leander Dendoncker. He actually performed really well in game week 1. But if we look at his stats for game week 2, so the bet is Abdul. I'm not sure if you know. So I pick a player. I'm going to pick an attacking player every week, and they have to return in that week. Otherwise, we give £10 to charity at the end of the season. So I went for Alan Warren in game week 1, which I thought was incredibly unlucky. Actually, I thought he was really good. Oh, it's got to be under 1% owned as well. I went for Dendoncker in game week 2. Let me just read out these attacking stats for Dendoncker for game week 2. Goals 0, assists 0, shots 0, shots on target 0, shots in the box 0, XG 0.00, XA 0.00, big chances 0, big chances created 0, and key passes 0. So I thought it was quite unlucky. Rich, you did say that. Was it a ball when I kind of across the line and you were thinking of me as he slid in or something?
I think yeah, he nearly got on the end of something, but that probably won't register as any stats whatsoever because he didn't touch it, right? But there was something. The ball went near him.
The ball went near him. Is that a stat we should add on to Fantasy Football Home?
That makes it different.
The ball went near him. As Magic69 in the chat says, Dendoncker was consistent, a very consistent player, absolute zero attacking threat. Now, for this week, I have gone for a punt. His name has actually been up on a slide already. Just to give you a few clues. I don't think this is actually someone I like, someone I enjoy watching. But he had 4 shots last game week, 3 shots in the box, all on target. He had 1 big chance. Sorry, this is over 2 weeks. 4 shots, 3 in the box, 3 on target, 1 big chance. XG of 0.79 and XA of 0.58. He is 0.4% owned, so he's very, very low owned. And he plays a team who has conceded the joint highest amount of big chances with 7, with 3 of those coming against a newly promoted team last week. I was having a little bit of a look this morning. He's also receiving very high praise from his manager for his early season form. I don't expect you guys to kind of get that. He is a Brighton player, if that gives you a chance. We haven't really mentioned him at all. Any thoughts before I reveal all?
Is it Danny Welbeck?
No, he's not.
Solly March?
It is Solly March. He is my punt for this week. I've been very impressed with him. Well, I've been impressed with all the Brighton team. in all fairness. But, I would have gone across the Brighton line. I had to look for someone under 1% owned, and Solly March, he has got the second highest amount of expected points for Brighton over the first 2 game weeks, with over 10 points as well. So I'm very confident that Solly March is going to get something this week, and if not, it will be yet another £10 for charity. The charity is going to be swimming in cash at the end of this season, following all that. But yeah,
it's a better punt than Dendonka, mate. It's just credible.
I should have saved it till next week when they were playing Leeds, but you got to go for it. So Solly March this week for me. Okay, Rich, we've got your team on screen. You want to run us through it and your plans for the game week?
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is a provisional team. I think in this particular lineup, I have sold Robertson. Have I? I can't see the graphic right now, but I think I've put Diaz in because, I'm just so sick of watching Abdul stretch ahead of me into the distance with 2 City defenders that my safe pick is to get $1 million out and drop Robertson down to Diaz. But I've just put that in there as a placeholder. I'm not going to make my transfers till Saturday morning. I'm going to wait until the news on Perisic comes through. I don't care about price changes. I just want to make the right decision for my team. So at the moment, I'm just going to make one move and roll the other transfer, sort the City double defence out and just swap it over from the Liverpool double defence. It will, 2 transfers next week still gives me an opportunity to manoeuvre things around. So that's what I'm planning to do. If Perisic looks like he's going to play, I will go with him. But if there's news that suggests he's 70% likely to not start, I will probably keep Robertson and sell Perisic instead, probably to the man you mentioned, Neco Williams, just to maximise the cash. And then that still gives me 4 strong defenders at the back and gives me a bit of extra money to spend. So those are my options. In midfield, I think I'm just playing Salah, Neto and
Martinelli,
and then Haaland and Jesus up front, Salah captain.
Good stuff. I'd be tempted by Perisic, Rich. I gotta be honest. I'd do it. I get rid of Perisic. I would. I go to someone like Cucurella, Walker, or Williams.
Yeah,
Walker or Williams, and just spend the cash elsewhere. I think, I like if you think of like Robertson and Perisic, I just think they're a bit non-comparable at the moment, especially when Spurs are going to have 3 games in a week in like 2 weeks' time or whatever. But
yeah.
Take advice from me, Rich, if you want.
It's too risky. No, I think you're right. I think it's too risky. You can talk about it. The more I think he's one of these guys. The more you talk about it, the more hopeful you're going to become. But there's no substance to the conversation, is there? Conte's saying basically he's not fit enough. So it's just believe him.
It is. Hussein Mohammed in the chat said about my punt that I should have stuck to Dendonka. And Steen says, I was actually considering Solly March as a big replacement, but I might have to forget about that now after I've punted in. Thank you so much, ladies and gents. Abdul, let's have a look at your team. Do you want to talk through it?
Yeah, so I've got 2 free transfers at the moment, and honestly, like I could easily like burn a transfer here. I could possibly, it's very likely that I do. As you can see, the team is set up pretty well. My weakest link there, I'd say, is Gabriel, right? Who's at 5 million. So I could possibly move him on to Cucurella. Another move which was brought to the attention of me today was I could do Diaz to Walker and just save the other transfer, and that frees up 1 million as well. I don't know. I'm not particular. I'm not like, first of all, like the Gabriel to Cucurella, I'm not too keen on that at the moment because Arsenal have got Bournemouth, Fulham, and Aston Villa at home, and so they've got 2 home fixtures the next 3, and they're playing Bournemouth. So it seems quite risky to get rid of Gabriel, who's got a goal for it as well, and then Diaz to Walker. Possibly, that could be good for up until at least maybe game week 4 or 5. That's that's when all the Champions Leagues and midweek games start. So that could be a problem down the line. So yeah, I'm in a bit of a conundrum, guys. I don't know. What would you guys do with that? Like, because I'm really like with those 3 options.
It's hard to change perfection, isn't it, Fergie? Really.
I'm so split with those 3 options at the moment. I don't know what I'm going to do, but yeah, any help appreciated.
Well, I just wanted to ask, just before before we talk about specifics, I mean, I do watch the way you play the game, and I do admire the conservative way you manage your transfers through a season. Do you think you'd be even better at this game if there was like a limit on transfers? I just feel like you must get this feeling a lot like you don't need a transfer, more than maybe most people, because you plan so well, you look so far ahead, and what I made a comment on Twitter, it was a compliment really, is you just wring the value out of every player you buy, and therefore if you're happy with your team, you're still getting value from those players. So I don't know if you can give some insight on that, but you just seem so prepared compared to most of us. It's just like...
Yeah, I mean, that's what, like, when I picked my game week one team, like, it's part of the reason why I avoid the likes of the Baileys and Nettles, because there could be potential problems. So I do try and plan it as far ahead as I can, and pick the safest players at the start of the season, because that's when we kind of have the least information and whatnot. But I've honestly, like, in the 16 years of playing, I've probably been in a position where I'm able to burn a transfer maybe twice or thrice. So this isn't like an everyday thing, this burning a transfer. But yeah, generally I do try and kind of plan ahead, and then keep save a transfer when I can, because obviously having the 2 free transfers is gives you so much more kind of flexibility and control over your team. So I do try and kind of play towards that way. I guess in this situation I've just kind of got lucky. I've picked a good team. It's not too much different to yours or Fergie's or the standard template. I think I've just got a few players in there who kind of like for example, I went for Diaz instead of Robbo, and I've gone for Louis Diaz from Liverpool instead of like a double Liverpool defence. So I think that's what's kind of got me stuck there at the moment. But I guess it's a good problem to have, isn't it?
Good problem. I'm looking forward to next week, Abdul, because next week you're going to have 11 players all playing at home, and they've all got ridiculous fixtures again.
You know what, Fergie? Like, I made this comment on Twitter as well. I think it was Seb who mentioned something about not being able to see a transfer, and I says I've looked at my team up until game week 4, and I cannot see one single move to make. It's just the way like the FPL have priced the players this season as well. I think with the defenders, being so cheap, like Trent, Robbo, Cancelo, also leniently priced. Yeah. I mean, and usually in a season we have maybe like 6 or 7, I'd say, glue picks, and then you kind of transfer the other players in and out. Whereas I think this season it's like you've got possibly a starting 11, which is a glue 11, and you're like what do you do? So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm sure something will crop up.
So you're very happy with your double City defense then, basically. You're not going to break that up. You just may trim some money out of it, but you're making me want to get DS basically with that.
I mean, I think up until the first wild card, totally happy with a double City defence. My initial plan when I got Diaz, Rich, was having him there as a placeholder for Perisic, but I don't think that's going to kind of come to fruition now. So yeah, I'm more than happy to carry that double City defence up until my first wild card.
I'd be tempted by Gabriel to cook around, maybe just as
that's the one that's tempted me the most, Fergie. I'll be honest with you. It seems to be the one with the kind of the most upside. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, awesome team and an awesome start, Abdul, as usual. If you don't follow Abdul, well, all 3 of us actually reveal our final teams on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk for Hub members. There is 50% off, which is actually expiring on Saturday. So if you haven't joined the Hub yet, both Rich and Abdul and myself reveal all our fantasy teams pre-deadline exclusively for Fantasy Football Hub members. 50% off. I think the link is in the description now, and it's also in the live chat if you haven't seen it already. How do I follow that? I've now got to post my team, haven't I? After that. Jeez. Come on.
Let's have a look at this shower.
Always being the bridesmaid. So this is my rabble. So I've got starts off okay. Ramsdale in goal, which is all right. Then got Trent, James, Cancelo. I'll be playing Williams this week, I think. So I have got Williams. I've got Robertson in at the moment, but I'm tempted to get rid. This is the difference with me and you, well, me and you, Abdul, see is I just got itchy fingers, and I just like how you enjoy playing FPL. The enjoyment you get from FPL, I know, is doing really well, having amazing ranks. How I enjoy playing FPL is wanting to look for some random on the weekend to try and get a goal that makes me jump through the ceiling that I'm not expecting. So at the moment, I've got that back five. I'll probably play a back five this week regardless. I've then got Salah, Martinelli, so I'll be starting Andreas at this point. Haaland and Jesus. I've got. I can't say it out loud. I'm going to say this out loud. I've got Almiron, Bailey, and Alvarez on my bench, just eating up money. Alvarez has dropped.
That's
twice.
actually quite a high value bench.
It is a high value,
and they're all rubbish.
This is why I need to sort it all out. So they're just chewing up money. There's like, what's that? There's like 4 million on that bench just wasting away.
I think you're going to be wildcarding game week 5.
I'm not going to be wildcarding, Rich.
I think you're careering towards a wildcard.
No, I think just a hit. Just a hit this week, hopefully, and it solves a couple of problems. So what I'm planning on doing, I think, so I really want, look like I'm getting some stick now in the chat about that bench. And they're saying Almiron and Alvarez with some weird faces and all that, and everyone's laughing at my bench. It's a horrible bench, isn't it? I could play, obviously, one of those above Andreas, but anyway. I think what I'm going to do, I haven't got 2 free transfers, so I think what I'm going to do, I am going to do Robertson 2, Cucurella, I think, which will save me 2 million. And I think what that does then, that will allow me to move Bailey, who is also dropping like a stone still, to Gross, which means that I then also have, I'll have another like just shy of 1.5 million in the bank. Then, so that's for a hit. So that means that my team will be a 5-3-2, but I will have Gross instead of Andreas and Cucurella and Robertson. So I'm really happy with that 11. That 11, I'm really happy with, and I've got a million in the bank. It's costing me 4 points. I understand that. What it means then next week though is I could do Alvarez to Tony or Welbeck, and kind of move forward then with, playing either a 5-2-3 or a 4-3-3. Think Abdul mentioned earlier, Williams rotates nicely with Andreas, and but I'm not too far off you guys in terms. I'm 2 players off, but my 2 players have been disasters, whereas your 2 players have been absolutely superb. So I'll captain Salah. I'm getting some stick in the chat. I'm 1974 says hit the panic button. Killian says wild card.
Wild card.
P Maka says make sure you don't play your bench boost. FPL Spartan says do a poll. Most of us think you should wild card now. Bernardo says I honestly don't know what's funnier, the Dendonka punt or that bench. Even Falavina says is Fergie an expert? Getting a lot of stick here, but when Gross scores 2 goals this weekend and I catch right up, I'll be the one. You'll be laughed on the other side of your face, wherever that means. Whatever that means. Any comments on my any comments on my team? Why do I even put myself through this? Any comments, gents?
Go on, Apple. You go first.
I'm just bringing up on the screen. Hold on, there it is. You're right. I think you just need to take that money out of the bench. You've got all the main. You've got your Trent, Robos, Cancelo, James, all great picks. Martinelli, Salah. So I guess the moves that you suggested, kind of over 2 weeks is fine. I think you can kind of sort that out. Obviously, it's going to be a bit of a setback, making those moves, but I think you'll be pretty well set up once you've done that.
Have you got anything in the bank?
No.
Zilch, nothing.
Zilch.
Right. Okay.
And I've lost 0.3 this week as well.
I mean, if you had 0.1, you could just get Mitrovic for Alvarez, and that'd start.
I can't because Alvarez has dropped twice this week, so I can't.
I can't even get him. Just trying to, if you had a little bit of change in your pocket.
Well, I was tempted to do a straight swap Alvarez Welbeck, because I do think Welbeck is going to be a good pick over the coming weeks as
Not
well.
a bad shout.
I can't because
right.
Welbeck's 6.5 and Alvarez has dropped 0.2, so I can't do that. But I'm good. Like one of my resolutions at the start of the season was to not be scared to take hits, just to quickly sort my team out. And I think by doing this, I'm getting in 2 very good players with very good fixtures for the forthcoming weeks. It's also giving me a bit of money so I can make a good free transfer next week. So I'm happy. It's just not quite happened yet. But I also said at the start of the season, I'm getting a bit of stick. P. Macker says gross negligence. But I said at the start of the season, I'm determined just to have a player every week who I'm determined to be able to cheer on, which is my goal. And I'm going to enjoy the season. I found the last 2 seasons hard work and a bit of a drag. So yeah.
How are you doing? How are you doing in the other games? I mean, you won the Sun game. So how are you doing in how are you doing in those games? And
what did you do all that money, Fergie?
I'm still waiting. So we're having an extension built, right? But it's still not started due to various reasons. But it's supposed to start in a few weeks. So that will be nice. So yeah, we're almost like, because I live in the valleys in Wales, that money goes a long way, probably a lot further than most of the places in the UK. So I'm basically able to like double the size of my house almost, which is nice.
Wow, nice.
But yeah, I'm still waiting. And other than that, not a lot actually, because
you posted something about your son scored, and you I think I replied and said it was like my game week 30. You didn't have any points or something? Is that right? I thought last weekend.
Well, that was in Dream Team. I had net 0.
It was in Dream
net 0 on Dream Team. Thanks for bringing that up, Rich.
Sorry.
Jeez. I'm only joking. No, I'm not. I haven't started the season well at all in all formats. But let's leave that there. Okay, competition time for our YouTube watchers. Firstly, we did have a winner for Game Week 2. So Gabriel Jesus, top score with 19 points. There were a few people who guessed right, but the random winner was Toby Nugent. So well done, Toby. And if you are in the chat, drop me a DM and we'll sort you out with one of our fantastic Fantasy Football Hub mugs, which Rich has got over his shoulder there. For this week's competition, a chance to win one of our fantastic Fantasy Football Hub mugs. Make sure you like this video. Press the like button. Make sure you are subscribed and then comment on who will be the top point scorer in Game Week 3. So what we do every week, Abdul, pick out who you think will be the top point FPL scorer. You can't go for any of the obvious picks. So it needs to be a bit of a left field shout. Have you got one to hand?
Let me see. Sorry, let me just kind of bring up the fixtures quickly.
It's okay. Rich, you got anyone to hand?
Yeah, you go for Switch.
Yeah, I'll go for a Spurs player. I'll go for Son.
Yeah, you
to
go
suddenly
for Son.
explode on the scene.
We'll give you that.
Yeah,
one.
give Sonny. Yeah.
I'm going to go. So you go, Abdul.
Oh, sorry, on you go, Fergie. On you go.
I'm going to go for Maddison. I hope I haven't pinched yours. I'm going for Maddison, home to Southampton. I fancy him this week.
I'm going to go for Mbeumo.
Nice pick. Yeah, he's looking really, really good. Good stuff. And that is it for us for this week. Thank you so much to everyone who joined in the chat, those who are going to watch it back and those listening on the podcast. Your support is very much appreciated indeed. Thank you, Abdul, for joining us. Absolutely amazing to have you on, as always. Where can people find you, Abdul?
Thank you. Just on Twitter, FPL_Salah. That's where I am mostly. If
you don't follow Abdul, make sure you do. He is an absolute must follow. And Rich, where can we find you?
I'm on at Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter also, but just not as widespread as
not as widely spread as that.
With a few more followers. Yeah.
Just a reminder, our brand new My Team feature is now available. It's live and available to use. You can import your team from the FPL website, pick, plan, and optimize your team. And also, it's a last chance for 50% off Fantasy Football Hub membership. It does stop this weekend. So if you haven't joined the hub, it'll be the last chance to get 50% off. It's worth adding as well. You will the price you pay is what you'll pay for life as well. So if you're on the fence, just do it. It's cheap as chips. It's worth every penny. My handle on Twitter is at FFH_Fergie. So this podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you go on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere, please drop us 5 stars, drop us a comment. It would be much, much appreciated. Or you can also find this on our brand new app available on Android and iOS. If you haven't downloaded our app yet, just search for Fantasy Football Hub. Fantastic new app, brilliant. If you can, drop that a rating as well. It would be much, much appreciated. If you've enjoyed our content for the last, hour and 20 minutes, make sure you drop us a like. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll be back next Thursday. Not sure if Adam is back or not, because he's away. But we'll be previewing Game Week 4. We hope you all have a fantastic Game Week 3, and may all your arrows be green. Goodbye for now.